In the year 2375, Earth was no longer the broken, polluted planet it had once been. Decades of effort had healed much of the damage caused by centuries of neglect and greed. The skies were clearer, the oceans cleaner, and humanity had begun to dream again. But those dreams came with challenges. Beyond Earth's blue horizon lay the vast unknown, a galaxy teeming with life, some friendly, others hostile. Humanity knew it could not stay hidden forever. High above Earth's atmosphere floated a massive structure, silent and dormant for years. It was called Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, an enormous warship built during a time when humanity feared its own extinction. Designed as both a shield and a sword, it was meant to protect Earth from any threat, whether alien or human-made. For decades, it remained unused, a relic of paranoia and fear. But now, whispers of danger from the stars had reached Earth's leaders, and the decision was made. Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, would awaken. Captain Ethan Cole stood on the observation deck of a space station overlooking the colossal ship. A tall man with graying hair and sharp eyes, Ethan had been retired for years, content to live quietly away from the pressures of command. But when the call came, he didn't hesitate. He knew what Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, represented, not just power, but responsibility. And he also knew that leading such a vessel required someone who understood both. Ethan turned as footsteps approached. Lieutenant Amelia Hart walked in, her expression unreadable. Younger than most officers on the mission, she carried herself with confidence. Her expertise in engineering made her indispensable, though her skepticism about the mission was no secret. "Captain," she said, stopping beside him. "You wanted to see me?" "Yes," Ethan replied, gesturing toward the window. "What do you think of her?" Amelia glanced at the ship, its sleek design glinting under artificial light. "Impressive," she admitted. "But I still don't understand why we're doing this. We barely know what's out there. What if we make things worse?" "That's why we're here," Ethan said firmly. "To find out. If we wait for trouble to come to us, it'll be too late. This ship is our chance to take control of our future." Amelia nodded slowly, though doubt lingered in her eyes. She wasn't the only one uneasy about the mission. Commander Ryan Blake, a seasoned strategist with scars from past battles, voiced similar concerns during briefings. His haunted demeanor suggested he'd seen too much death, and he worried about repeating history. Then there was Dr. Laura Hayes, the team's xenobiologist, whose curiosity about alien life clashed with fears of what they might encounter. As days passed, the crew worked tirelessly to prepare Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, for launch. Systems long untouched hummed back to life, engines roared to test capacity, and weapons systems, far more advanced than anything humanity had ever built, were calibrated to perfection. Rumors spread among nearby star systems about the ship's activation. Some species saw it as a sign of hope. Others viewed it as a threat. On the day of departure, Ethan stood on the bridge, watching his crew move with precision. Each face reflected determination mixed with apprehension. As the countdown began, he addressed them over the intercom. "This isn't just a mission," he said, his voice steady. "It's a step forward, for all of us. Whatever lies ahead, we face it together." With that, Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, broke free of Earth's orbit, heading into the great unknown. Behind it, the blue planet shrank until it vanished entirely. Ahead lay endless possibilities, and dangers waiting to be uncovered. The journey into deep space aboard Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, began with a mix of excitement and tension. For the first few days, the crew focused on testing the ship's systems, ensuring everything worked as planned. The hum of the engines was constant, and the vastness of space stretched endlessly outside the windows. Captain Ethan Cole spent most of his time on the bridge, watching over his team. He knew that even the smallest mistake could mean disaster, so he stayed alert, always ready for whatever might come. Lieutenant Amelia Hart kept busy in the engineering bay, running diagnostics on the ship's core systems. She still wasn't sure about the mission, but her professionalism never wavered. Commander Ryan Blake, meanwhile, studied star maps and plotted courses, searching for any signs of danger. Dr. Laura Hayes spent hours in the lab, analyzing data from nearby star systems. Her curiosity about alien life was insatiable, though she couldn't shake the feeling that they were being watched. It didn't take long for that feeling to become reality. On the 5th day of their voyage, sensors picked up unusual readings ahead. A group of small ships, moving quickly, was approaching the Vanguard *. At first, no one could identify them. Their design was strange, long, sleek, and covered in what looked like organic material. When communication attempts failed, Ethan ordered the crew to prepare for the worst. "Unknown vessels closing in," Ryan reported, his voice calm but firm. "They're not responding to hails." Ethan nodded. "Raise shields. Arm weapons, but hold fire unless provoked." Amelia's fingers flew across her console, bringing the ship's defenses online. The tension on the bridge was thick, everyone holding their breath as the mysterious ships drew closer. Then, without warning, one of them fired. A bright beam of energy shot toward the Vanguard *, striking its shields with a loud crackle. "They're attacking," Ryan shouted. "Return fire," Ethan commanded, "but aim to disable, not destroy." The crew sprang into action. Weapon systems roared to life, sending precise bursts of energy at the attackers. The enemy ships were fast, darting around in unpredictable patterns. But the Vanguard * was faster, its advanced technology giving it an edge. Within minutes, 2 of the ships were disabled, floating helplessly in space. The others retreated, disappearing into the void. As the battle ended, Ethan turned to his team. "Good work, everyone. Let's assess the damage and see what we can learn from those ships." Laura and her team suited up and boarded one of the disabled vessels. Inside, they found strange, tentacled creatures slumped over their controls. They were unlike anything humanity had ever seen. Laura carefully collected samples and recorded data, her mind racing with questions. Who were these beings? Why had they attacked? Back on the Vanguard *, the crew gathered in the briefing room. Laura explained what she had discovered. "These aliens are called the Valeri," she said, showing images on a screen. "They're known for their aggressive behavior and expansionist tendencies. This was likely just a scouting party." Ryan frowned. "If they were scouts, then someone knows we're here. Word will spread." Ethan leaned back in his chair, thinking. "Then let them spread the word. We've shown them what we're capable of. If this encounter teaches the galaxy one thing, it's that humanity won't back down." The crew nodded, though unease lingered. They had proven their strength, but they also knew this was only the beginning. Somewhere out there, more dangers awaited, and the Vanguard * would have to face them all. After the encounter with the Valeri, life aboard the Vanguard * settled into a tense rhythm. The crew worked hard to repair any minor damage from the battle and ensure the ship was ready for whatever might come next. Captain Ethan Cole spent hours reviewing the data collected from the disabled Valeri ships. He wanted to understand their motives and who might be pulling their strings. Lieutenant Amelia Hart, however, couldn't shake her unease. She often found herself staring at the engine room's glowing core, lost in thought. "We barely know how to use this ship," she muttered one evening to Commander Ryan Blake, who had stopped by to check on her progress. "What happens if we face something bigger, something we can't handle?" Ryan sighed, leaning against a nearby console. "We deal with it. That's all we can do." This mission wasn't about being ready, it was about taking a stand. Amelia shook her head, but didn't argue. She admired Ryan's determination, even if she didn't always agree with him. Meanwhile, Dr. Laura Hayes pored over the samples taken from the Valeri ships. In the lab, surrounded by humming equipment and glowing screens, she pieced together fragments of information. The Valeri weren't acting alone. Their movements suggested they were part of a larger network, a vast empire that controlled countless species through fear and force. Laura called it the Zarnok Dominion, named after references buried deep within the alien databases. When Laura presented her findings to Ethan, his expression grew grim. "If this Dominion is as powerful as you say, we're walking into a war zone," he said, rubbing his temples. "But Earth Command gave us orders. Find the source of these threats and send a message. We can't back down now." Laura nodded. "I know, but we need to be careful. If the Zarnoks see us as a threat, they'll stop at nothing to crush us." Ethan agreed, and he called a meeting with the senior staff. On the bridge, he shared Laura's discoveries. The room fell silent as the crew absorbed the gravity of the situation. They weren't just dealing with scattered raiders. They were facing an empire that ruled through terror. "We've been given new coordinates," Ethan said finally, breaking the silence. "Earth Command wants us to locate the heart of the Dominion, their capital world. Our job is simple: show them that humanity won't tolerate aggression against weaker civilizations." The announcement sparked mixed reactions. Some, like Ryan, welcomed the challenge. Others, like Amelia, felt a knot tighten in their stomachs. "This feels reckless," she said quietly. "We don't even know what we're up against." "It's supposed to feel that way," Ethan replied. "Fear keeps us sharp, but remember why we're here. This isn't just about Earth. It's about every species out there living in fear. We have the power to change that." As preparations continued, the crew worked harder than ever. Training drills became more intense, and every system on the ship was double-checked. Tensions ran high, but so did determination. Each member of the team knew the stakes, and each carried their own burden. One night, as Ethan stood alone on the observation deck, gazing at the stars, Ryan joined him. "You really think we can pull this off?" Ryan asked, his voice low. "We have to," Ethan said simply. "If we don't, who will?" Ryan didn't respond right away. Instead, he looked out at the endless expanse of space, where dangers lurked unseen. "Let's hope we're ready." Ethan nodded, though doubt flickered briefly in his eyes. Ready or not, the Vanguard was heading deeper into enemy territory. The galaxy would soon learn what humanity was made of, but so would the crew. The journey deeper into uncharted space brought the Vanguard closer to the heart of the Zarnok Dominion. The crew remained vigilant, knowing that every step forward carried greater risk. Captain Ethan Cole pushed the ship to its limits, determined to reach their destination before the Dominion could mobilize a stronger response. But as they ventured further, the signs of destruction became impossible to ignore. One day, sensors picked up an anomaly, a cluster of objects drifting near a dead star. Curious, Ethan ordered the ship to investigate. As the Vanguard approached, the crew realized the objects were ships. Dozens of them. Some were battered and broken, others reduced to mere scraps of metal. It was a graveyard, silent and cold, floating in the shadow of the dying star. "What happened here?" Lieutenant Amelia Hart whispered as she studied the wreckage on her monitor. Her voice carried a mix of awe and dread. Commander Ryan Blake leaned over her shoulder, his jaw tightening. "Looks like a massacre," he said grimly. "These ships belong to different species, none of them Zarnok." Ethan nodded. "Send a team to scan for survivors or data logs. We need to know who did this." A small boarding party, led by Dr. Laura Hayes, suited up and boarded one of the larger wrecks. Inside, the air was stale, and the corridors were dark. The ship's systems were long dead, but Laura's team managed to recover fragments of information from the damaged computers. What they found chilled them to the bone. These ships were fleeing, Laura explained later, back on the Vanguard She played a recording for the crew. A desperate voice, crackling with static, pleaded for help. They were running from the Zarnoks. This was a refugee fleet trying to escape the Dominion's grasp. The recording ended abruptly, leaving silence in the briefing room. Ethan clenched his fists, anger burning in his chest. "This is what we're fighting against," he said, his voice firm. "An empire that hunts down anyone who tries to break free." Amelia looked down at her hands, her usual skepticism replaced by sorrow. "How do you fight something like that?" "They've been doing this for who knows how long." "We fight by standing up to them," Ethan replied. "By showing the galaxy that there's another way. If we can take down the Dominion, maybe others will find the courage to rise up too." Ryan stepped forward, his expression hard. "And if we fail?" "Then we make sure they remember us," Ethan said without hesitation. "We show them that humanity doesn't go down quietly." The discovery weighed heavily on the crew, but it also strengthened their resolve. They spent hours combing through the wreckage, collecting more data, and piecing together the story of the doomed fleet. Among the debris, Laura found personal belongings, photos, trinkets, remnants of lives cut short. She carefully stored them away, vowing to honor the memory of those who had died. As the Vanguard prepared to leave the graveyard behind, Ethan stood on the bridge, staring out at the sea of ruined ships. He thought about the countless species that had suffered under the Dominion's rule. For so long, humanity had focused on its own survival, but now it had a chance to do something greater, to stand for justice in a galaxy drowning in fear. "We won't let this be forgotten," he said softly, almost to himself. Then, turning to his crew, he added, "Let's keep moving. The Zarniks need to know we're coming." With renewed purpose, the Vanguard set course for the Dominion's core worlds. The crew knew the road ahead would be dangerous, but they also knew they couldn't turn back. The galaxy had learned the meaning of fear, but soon it might learn the meaning of hope. As the Vanguard pushed further into hostile territory, the crew began to feel the weight of their mission more than ever. The ship's systems hummed steadily, but the atmosphere aboard was tense. Every jump through hyperspace brought them closer to the heart of the Zarnak Dominion, and every hour that passed felt like borrowed time. One evening, as the crew prepared for another routine scan of nearby space, sensors detected an unusual signal. It wasn't a distress call or an attack. It was something subtler, almost hidden. Lieutenant Amelia Hart traced the source to a small rocky moon orbiting a gas giant. "There's a base down there," she reported, pointing at her monitor. "Looks abandoned, but I'm picking up faint energy readings." Captain Ethan Cole studied the data carefully. "Could be a trap," he said, "but we need intel if we're going to take on the Dominion. Let's check it out." A landing party was assembled, led by Commander Ryan Blake. Alongside him were Dr. Laura Hayes and 2 security officers. As they descended to the surface in a shuttle, the moon's barren landscape stretched endlessly before them, gray rocks and jagged cliffs under a dim orange sky. The base itself was tucked into a crater, its metal walls rusted and scarred. Inside, the air was thick with dust, and the corridors were eerily quiet. But it didn't take long for the team to realize they weren't alone. Footsteps echoed ahead, and soon they came face to face with a group of humans, rogue mercenaries clad in mismatched armor. Their leader, a tall man with sharp features and a confident smirk, introduced himself as Victor Kane. "You're a long way from Earth," Victor said, leaning casually against a wall. His voice carried a mix of charm and menace. "What brings you to our little corner of the galaxy?" "We could ask you the same thing," Ryan replied, his hand resting on his weapon. "You're not exactly part of Earth Command anymore." Victor chuckled. "True enough. We left that life behind years ago. Out here, we make our own rules." He gestured toward the rest of his crew. "But we might be able to help each other. You're looking for the Zarniks, right? I can give you coordinates to their homeworld. For a price." Ethan listened intently over the comms as Victor laid out his offer. The coordinates were tempting, but something about the situation felt off. "Be careful," he warned Ryan. "This guy's trouble." Ryan nodded slightly, then turned back to Victor. "We don't negotiate with pirates." Victor's smile faded. "Pity. I was hoping we could avoid unpleasantness." In an instant, His men raised their weapons, surrounding the landing party. Back on Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, Ethan ordered the ship into position, ready to intervene if needed. On the ground, chaos erupted. Ryan and his team fought back fiercely, using the narrow corridors to their advantage. Laura stayed close to the security officers, clutching a scanner as she tried to locate an exit. Bullets ricocheted off the walls, and shouts filled the air. Despite being outnumbered, Ryan managed to turn the tide. With precise movements, he disarmed one mercenary after another, until only Victor remained. Cornered, Victor sneered. "You think this changes anything? You're just delaying the inevitable." Ryan stepped forward, his weapon trained on Victor. "Maybe, but at least we're still standing." Victor surrendered, and the landing party returned to Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk with the coordinates. But no trust for the information. Back aboard the ship, Ethan locked Victor in the brig, knowing he couldn't risk letting him go. The betrayal weighed heavily on the crew, reminding them how far humanity's reach had stretched, and how fragile alliances could be. As Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk resumed its course, Ethan stared out at the stars, wondering what other dangers lay ahead. One thing was certain: the galaxy was full of enemies, both alien and human, and the fight was far from over. After the encounter with Victor Kane and his mercenaries, the crew of Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, remained cautious. The coordinates provided by Victor were tempting, but no one trusted them completely. Captain Ethan Cole decided to proceed carefully, sending probes ahead to scan for traps or ambushes. The last thing they needed was to walk into another betrayal. As the ship moved deeper into uncharted space, something unexpected happened. Sensors picked up a faint signal, a rhythmic pulse that seemed almost alive. It wasn't hostile, but it was unusual. Lieutenant Amelia Hart traced the source to a nearby nebula, its swirling colors glowing softly against the blackness of space. "It's like nothing I've ever seen," she said, her voice tinged with curiosity. "Whatever it is, it's not natural." Ethan nodded. "Let's take a closer look." Commander Ryan Blake led a small team in a shuttle to investigate. As they entered the nebula, the air inside the cockpit grew warmer, and the lights flickered faintly. Then, out of the haze, shapes began to emerge, glowing, translucent beings that floated gracefully through the void. They were unlike any life form the crew had encountered before. Their bodies shimmered with energy, and their presence radiated calm. One of the beings approached the shuttle, communicating not with words but with feelings. Images and emotions flooded Ryan's mind: peace, unity, and a deep sadness. He quickly called back to Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk. "We're not alone here," he said. "These creatures, they're intelligent, and they're being hunted." Dr. Laura Hayes joined the conversation from the lab. "Could they be the Luminae?" she asked. "There are old records mentioning an energy-based species persecuted by the Zarnax." Ethan's expression hardened. "If that's true, we can't leave them to die. Bring them aboard if you can." The Luminae, as they called themselves, agreed to communicate further once aboard Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk. Their leader, Solon, took the form of a humanoid figure made of light, speaking through a translator device. "We have watched your journey," Solon said, his voice soft but resonant. "You fight against the darkness that consumes this galaxy. We wish to help." Solon offered hyperspace coordinates that would allow Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, to bypass Dominion defenses and reach the Zarnak homeworld undetected. In return, he asked for protection. The Zarnax had been hunting the Luminae for years, capturing them to harvest their energy for weapons. Ethan didn't hesitate. "We'll protect you," he promised. "But know this, standing with us puts you at risk. The Dominion won't stop until we're all destroyed." Solon's glow brightened slightly, a gesture that seemed to convey gratitude. "Risk is part of survival. We choose to stand with you." Back on the ship, the crew worked tirelessly to integrate the new coordinates into their navigation systems. For the first time in days, there was a sense of hope. The alliance with the Luminae gave them not just a tactical advantage, but also a reminder of why they were fighting. For freedom, for justice, and for the countless species oppressed by the Dominion. Amelia spent hours studying the Luminae's technology, fascinated by how advanced yet peaceful it was. "They could teach us so much," she said to Laura during a quiet moment in the lab. "If we survive this, maybe humanity can learn to build instead of destroy." Laura smiled faintly. "That's the dream, isn't it?" As Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, prepared to jump to hyperspace, Ethan stood on the bridge, watching Solon and his people settle into a secure section of the ship. The weight of leadership pressed on him, but he felt a renewed sense of purpose. They weren't just fighting for Earth anymore. They were fighting for everyone who had suffered under the Dominion's rule. The galaxy had learned fear, but now, perhaps it might learn courage. Using the hyperspace coordinates provided by the Luminae, Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk approached the outer rim of the Zarnok Dominion. The crew knew this was the most dangerous part of their mission so far. Beyond this point lay the heart of the Empire, a fortress guarding the entrance to the core worlds. It was heavily defended, with countless ships and weapons ready to annihilate any intruder. Captain Ethan Cole gathered his senior staff on the bridge to review their plan. "This is it," he said, pointing at a holographic map of the fortress. "If we can take this out, we'll have a clear path to the Zarnok homeworld. But we're outnumbered and outgunned. We'll need to be smart." Lieutenant Amelia Hart frowned as she studied the map. "It's suicide," she muttered. "Even with the Luminae's help, we can't win a direct fight." "We're not planning a direct fight," Ethan replied calmly. "We're going to use deception." "Ryan, explain the strategy." Commander Ryan Blake stepped forward, his expression grim but focused. "We'll send decoys, small drones rigged to look like our ship. They'll draw the enemy's fire while we slip through the defenses. Once inside, we'll target key systems, shields, weapons, and communications. If we can disable those, the fortress will fall." Dr. Laura Hayes raised a hand hesitantly. "What about the Luminae? Shouldn't they stay safe while we handle this?" Ethan shook his head. "They've already agreed to help. Their energy signatures can mask our movements. Without them, we'd never get close enough." The crew worked quickly to prepare for the assault. Amelia oversaw the deployment of the decoys, ensuring each one mimicked Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk's signature, perfectly. Ryan coordinated with the pilots, briefing them on their roles in the attack. Meanwhile, Laura stayed with the Luminae, helping Solon and his people adjust to the ship's systems. When everything was ready, Ethan gave the order. The decoys launched first, drawing immediate attention from the Zarnok fleet. Bright beams of energy lit up space as hundreds of ships opened fire. For a moment, it seemed like the ruse might fail, but then, the real Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, moved into position, shielded by the Luminae's energy fields. Inside the fortress, alarms blared as the crew scrambled to respond to the sudden threat. Ethan led the charge, directing precision strikes against critical targets. The ship's advanced weapons tore through the enemy's defenses, disabling shield generators and weapon turrets one by one. But the battle wasn't without cost. One of the pilots, Daniel Cruz, sacrificed himself to protect the ship when a stray missile threatened to breach the hull. "No," Ryan shouted as Daniel's fighter exploded in a flash of light. He clenched his fists but forced himself to focus. There would be time to grieve later. As the fortress crumbled, the Zarnok forces began to retreat, overwhelmed by the unexpected ferocity of the attack. Back on Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, the crew cheered quietly, though the victory felt hollow. Daniel's death weighed heavily on everyone, especially Ethan, who had promised to bring his team home safely. When the dust settled, Ethan addressed the crew over the intercom. "We did what we came here to do," he said, his voice steady despite the pain in his chest. "But we lost one of our own today. Let's honor Daniel's sacrifice by finishing this mission, and making sure it wasn't in vain." With the fortress destroyed, The Vanguard sailed onward, closer than ever to the Zarnak homeworld. The galaxy watched, waiting to see what humanity would do next. Fear rippled through the Dominion, but for the first time in years, hope stirred among the oppressed. With the fortress destroyed, the Vanguard finally reached the Zarnak homeworld. It was a dark, foreboding planet surrounded by layers of defense grids and swarms of warships. The sheer scale of the Dominion's power was overwhelming, and for the first time, even Captain Ethan Cole felt a flicker of doubt. But there was no turning back now. As the Vanguard approached, a massive transmission signal blared across all frequencies. On the main screen in the bridge, the towering figure of Krylos, the Zarnak overlord, appeared. His body was covered in thick, armored plates, and his voice boomed with authority. "You dare enter our domain, humans," he growled. "Surrender now, or your world will burn." Ethan stood tall, his face calm but resolute. He turned to Dr. Laura Hayes, who nodded and activated the ship's communication system. Instead of responding directly to Krylos, Ethan broadcast a message, not just to the Zarnaks, but to the entire galaxy. "People of the galaxy," Ethan began, his voice steady and clear. "For too long, the Zarnak Dominion has ruled through fear and oppression. Countless species have suffered under their cruelty. But today, humanity says enough. We are here not just to protect Earth, but to stand for all those who have been silenced. The age of tyranny ends now." Krylos roared in fury, slamming a clawed fist against his throne. "You think words can stop us? Destroy them." The Zarnak fleet surged forward, weapons blazing. Hundreds of ships surrounded the Vanguard unleashing a storm of energy blasts. The ship shuddered under the assault, but its advanced shields held firm. Ethan gave the order to fire back, and the crew sprang into action. Lieutenant Amelia Hart worked tirelessly to keep the systems running, her hands flying over the controls as alarms blared around her. Commander Ryan Blake coordinated the defensive maneuvers, his voice sharp and focused. "Evasive pattern Delta. Target their lead ships." The crew executed his commands with precision, weaving through enemy fire while launching counterattacks. The battle raged on, the glow of explosions lighting up the void. Amid the chaos, Ethan led a boarding party toward Krylos's flagship. They knew the only way to end the war was to confront the Overlord directly. Armed with weapons and determination, the team fought their way through the ship's corridors, facing waves of Zarnak soldiers. Each step was a struggle, but they pushed forward, driven by the knowledge that failure wasn't an option. Finally, they reached the command center. Krylos awaited them, his massive frame blocking the entrance. "You are brave to come here," he sneered, "but bravery won't save you." Ethan stepped forward, meeting the Overlord's gaze without flinching. "It's not about bravery. It's about doing what's right." A fierce battle erupted. Krylos was powerful, his strikes shaking the ground. But Ethan and his team fought with skill and teamwork. Ryan distracted the Overlord, while Laura used a portable EMP device to weaken his armor. With one final blow, Ethan struck Krylos down, ending the tyrant's reign. Back aboard the Vanguard the crew watched as the Zarnak forces fell into disarray. Without their leader, the fleet scattered, retreating from the battlefield. Cheers broke out among the crew, but Ethan remained quiet, staring at the crumbling empire before him. The fight was over, but the scars would linger, for the galaxy and for his team. In that moment, Ethan realized the true cost of victory. The galaxy had learned fear, but it had also learned resistance, and humanity had proven it would not back down. The fall of Krylos sent shockwaves through the Zarnak Dominion. Without their overlord, the empire crumbled into chaos. Ships abandoned their posts, fleeing to distant parts of the galaxy. Entire worlds that had been under Zarnak control began to rise up, throwing off the chains of oppression. News of humanity's victory spread quickly, carried by both the liberated species and the remnants of the Dominion itself. Back aboard the Vanguard Asterisk. The crew worked to secure the area around the Zarnok homeworld. Captain Ethan Cole knew the fight wasn't truly over. There would still be pockets of resistance, but for now, the immediate threat was neutralized. He gathered his senior staff in the briefing room to discuss next steps. "We've done what we came here to do," Ethan said, leaning against the table. "But we can't leave these people to fend for themselves. The Luminae have offered to help rebuild, but it'll take more than that. We need to show the galaxy that humanity stands with them." Lieutenant Amelia Hart nodded slowly. "It's a big responsibility. Are we ready for that?" Ethan looked at her, his expression thoughtful. "We don't have a choice. If we walk away now, we're no better than the Zarnoks. This is our chance to make things right." Dr. Laura Hayes added, "And we owe it to Daniel and everyone else who gave their lives to see this through." The decision was made. Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk would stay in the region temporarily, helping coordinate relief efforts and ensuring stability as former colonies declared independence. The Luminae played a key role, using their energy-based technology to heal damaged ecosystems and provide power to struggling communities. Solon, their leader, worked closely with Laura, sharing knowledge about sustainable practices that could benefit countless worlds. As days turned into weeks, stories of humanity's actions inspired hope across the galaxy. Representatives from newly freed species traveled to meet with Ethan and his crew, thanking them for their bravery. Some even pledged alliances with Earth, promising mutual support in the future. During one such meeting, Laura delivered a speech that resonated deeply with those present. "This isn't just about defeating an enemy," she said, standing before a gathering of alien leaders. "It's about proving that we're stronger together. Fear divided us, but courage and unity will carry us forward." Her words earned applause, but they also sparked discussions about forming a new coalition, a united front against any force that sought to dominate the galaxy again. Ethan listened quietly, realizing how much had changed since their mission began. Humanity wasn't just a newcomer anymore. It was a symbol of resistance and justice. Despite the progress, Ethan couldn't shake a sense of unease. During a quiet moment on the observation deck, Commander Ryan Blake joined him. "You look troubled," Ryan said. "What's on your mind?" "There's something out there," Ethan replied, gazing at the stars. "Something older, darker. I can feel it. The Zarnoks were bad enough, but they weren't the first ones to rule through fear. Whatever came before them, it's still lurking." Ryan frowned. "You think it's watching us?" "I know it is," Ethan said. "But for now, we've done all we can. Let's focus on rebuilding and preparing. When the time comes, we'll face whatever's waiting." As Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk prepared to return to Earth, messages of gratitude poured in from every corner of the galaxy. Humanity had proven its strength, not just in battle, but in compassion and leadership. But Ethan knew the journey was far from over. Somewhere in the shadows, another threat awaited. And when it emerged, humanity would be ready. The return of Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk to Earth, was met with celebrations across the planet. Cities lit up with fireworks, and millions gathered in public squares to honor the crew's bravery. Captain Ethan Cole stood on a stage alongside his team, watching as humanity cheered not just for their victory, but for the hope they had brought to the galaxy. For the first time in years, people dared to dream of a brighter future. At a global summit held shortly after their arrival, representatives from newly liberated species joined Earth's leaders to discuss what came next. The Luminae, still aboard Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, played a central role, offering guidance on how to rebuild shattered worlds. Solon addressed the assembly, his glowing form casting soft light over the room. "Freedom is only the beginning," he said. "True peace requires trust, understanding, and unity." Dr. Laura Hayes followed with her own speech, emphasizing the importance of cooperation. "We've shown the galaxy that we can stand together against fear," she told the crowd. "But this isn't just about stopping those who hurt us. It's about building something better, for all of us." Her words struck a chord, sparking plans for a new alliance, a coalition of species committed to protecting weaker civilizations and preventing another empire like the Zarnok Dominion from rising. Humanity, once isolated, now found itself at the center of a galactic movement toward justice and equality. Despite the joy surrounding their success, Ethan remained cautious. During quiet moments, he often retreated to the observation deck of Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, staring out at the stars. He couldn't shake the feeling that danger still loomed somewhere in the vast unknown. Commander Ryan Blake noticed his unease one evening and joined him. "You did everything you could," Ryan said, breaking the silence. "You gave the galaxy a chance to heal." "I know," Ethan replied, his voice low. "But there's something out there, something older than the Zarnoks. Something that's been watching. I don't think we've seen the last of it." Ryan frowned. "Do you think it'll come for us?" "Eventually," Ethan said. "But when it does, we'll be ready. We've proven we can fight, not just for ourselves, but for others. That's our strength." As weeks passed, life aboard Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, slowly returned to normal. The crew began repairs and upgrades, preparing the ship for whatever challenges lay ahead. Lieutenant Amelia Hart threw herself into her work, finding comfort in the hum of engines and the glow of diagnostic screens. Laura continued her research, studying data collected during their journey. Each member of the team carried scars from the mission, but they also carried pride in what they had accomplished. One night, as Ethan stood alone on the bridge, he reflected on everything that had happened. They had faced impossible odds, made sacrifices, and emerged victorious. But more importantly, they had changed the galaxy. Fear no longer ruled unchecked. Hope had taken its place. "The galaxy learned fear because of us," Ethan whispered to himself. "But they also learned courage." As Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk orbited Earth, its presence served as both a shield and a promise. Humanity had taken its first steps into the stars, proving it could hold its own among ancient powers. But Ethan knew the journey was far from over. Somewhere beyond the horizon, shadows stirred. And when they emerged, Asterisk, the Vanguard Asterisk, would rise to meet them. For now, though, the galaxy rested and dreamed of a better tomorrow.